Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, longtime listener Kyle the Gnome Waiter is back with a spooky prompt, just in time for spooky season. It's kind of spooky anyway. We'll get into it. Before we do, of course, if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, click the link, follow the instructions, and within a reasonable amount of time, we'll be building your world. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twitter over at Let's Worldbuild. If you want to come join our Discord where we are chatting about all sorts of cool stuff, and we've got an amazing spooky thread going on over there right now at the time of this recording, then you can go and join our Discord. Follow the link in the description of the episode. And of course, if you're feeling particularly generous or just want access to the sweet, sweet patron-only goodies that we have, you can give us money over on Patreon, where you can gain access to patron-only episodes, early releases, or most recently, double the episode length. And you can go and give us money over on Patreon. Follow the link in the episode description or our website for that. Now, with all the rigmarole out of the way, let's get right into the prompt. Kyle the Gnome Waiter says, this is a space setting mixing Western, swashbuckling, horror, and political intrigue elements. Long-distance travel is based around wormhole-like routes that need to be found and mapped out. Venturing through space is a dangerous job, but there are many who take on a life in the stars. Generally, space pirates and cowfolk. The tenets. The wormholes used for travel are not naturally created and are incredibly old. Number 2. Something/things lurks inside the wormholes. And number 3. A catastrophic event may be on the horizon, and almost everyone is afraid of what's coming to pass. So a big thank you again to Kyle the Gnome Waiter. It's always fun to get one of your prompts, and let's get right into it. So, Courtney, inaugural spooky season, well, not quite, but inaugural spooky season tenet, what's it going to be?
My first one is that whatever is in the wormholes is drawn to either a natural movement or power or heat or something along those lines. Such that the best way to get through the wormholes is to power down your ship as much as possible. So basically you give yourself a boost towards the wormhole and shut almost everything down and just drift so you don't attract the attention of whatever lurks inside.
Space drifting through the wormhole. That is absolutely terrifying. I do love that because it does amp up the spooky, because you're kind of forced to watch out the window as you slowly drift by whatever is in the wormhole.
Right.
Daniel, do you have any tenets that are related to the wormhole or what's in the wormhole specifically?
Not what's in it specifically, but I do have something that attaches to it.
Well, that sounds great, but I have something that is directly related to what's in the wormhole.
No.
And I'd love to kind of give this off. And this is kind of where I want to amp up the spooky just a little bit. Because what's in the wormhole, and Courtney, I'm sorry, I want to go back. That's really cool, thematically appropriate, and very fun. I really appreciate it. I want to point that out there.
Thanks. I was also thinking that, like, on the flip side, if you've powered down to the bare essentials of your ship, you're also this like sitting duck for those space pirates that were mentioned in the prompt.
Oh, tactically, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I was also going to say, like, you said that it's interested in heat or like movement or whatever. And I thought, like, when you think back to like naval ships or even like submarines, that's really cool moments for like instrumentation scenes where they're like looking at their instruments and they're having to like power down all the systems just to life support, just drift through. So you've got these really cool kind of like horror setup scenes.
I'm pretty sure that's a Das Boot scene, isn't it? Has anyone seen Das Boot, or am I just an old man?
But it was also in Red October, I think. Hunt for Red October.
Oh, Red
Maybe
October,
that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, because I've only ever seen 2 submarine movies, so
I can definitely see like a scene where it's like we've turned everything off, including life support, and now we only have 5 minutes before like we're depressurized and our air is gone, but we have to keep it off and glide through.
Right. Like the fact that like you're literally holding your breath, like you're forced to literally hold your breath because the oxygen systems go off or something like that. Like that's really good.
Yeah. Or you're sitting there in like a spacesuit with just your oxygen tank keeping you alive.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
great.
Oh, yeah. Get those good spooky vibes.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I want to jump in here because I want to talk about what's in the wormhole, you guys. What's in the wormhole is yourself, or actually copies of yourself, because every time you jump through a wormhole, you are left and stuck in the wormhole itself, and what comes out the other end is actually just a copy.
That's funny because one of my tenants would support that, and also because like I wanted it to be something trippy like that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and now that I'm so excited to hear your tenets, Daniel, because yeah, like I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like such a fun way to do this. Like, and now when you like consider like Courtney's tenet as well, like you're drifting through and you're seeing like doppelgangers of yourself, like trying to pound their way into your ship.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're like a space jockey, someone who takes these wormholes frequently, you're going to have like multiple versions of yourself, like all stuck together, or like all not stuck like physically, but I mean like clustered together, or I mean, I don't know. There's just like so many great chances for horrifying imagery. Like what happens if the copies of yourself turn on each other and you're just watching like space viscera kind of float, and there's one person or there's one you left and they've just got the death stare on you, you know?
Like covered in blood and shit. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
When you say copies, is it like when a ship goes through a wormhole, there's another like ship that's left behind? Like what's exactly happening?
Okay. Daniel, you love Star Trek.
Yes.
Do you remember the episode where the teleporter fucks up and it creates a copy of Riker, and Riker lives out an entire other life on that planet?
Yeah.
Basically that. So it's basically like this is a teleporter, but what it's actually doing is like it's copying you, but then not
in the other location.
Yeah, exactly. So like you will, by putting yourself through the wormhole, you're condemning a version of yourself to die in that wormhole.
Now, is it also copying, like, because we're passing through on a ship, right? So is the ship being copied as well?
I think the smartest way to approach that is to just say that it like just copies organic material or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So how do we pass through the wormhole?
What do you mean?
So if I'm on a ship and I'm passing through the wormhole, right?
Oh, damn it. This is where, okay, right. It's soft sci-fi, Daniel. It's soft. It's very soft sci-fi.
Well, I mean, so even with soft sci-fi, we're so think of it this way, like if we take a step back genre-wise, like there's hard sci-fi where we really need to give some kind of meaningful explanation from a science point of view. Yep. But in soft sci-fi, we still have logic to deal with, right? So I need to understand if I'm on a ship and I go through the wormhole on my ship, like, am I just coming back on the same ship and like my physical body has been copied? Is that what's happening?
Repeat that question.
So if I'm going, so wormhole really is just it's a shortcut through space, right? So if I'm going through this wormhole, you're saying it's organic matter? So is me being copied? So like, and my ship is exactly the same. So it's the same ship that passes through. So my ship is unaffected by it.
Right. So your physical body, your meat space is like, there.
So so my original me is left behind, and then at the other end, it's this copy that's
well, remember that there's no distinction, right? Like, because if you make a copy of yourself at that same time, they're not going to see themselves as a copy. There's no distinction between the copies.
Sure. I'm not asking that. I just want to understand physically, like, am I the original me left behind and there's a copy of me that's deposited on the other end in the same ship?
I'm having trouble understanding it because you shouldn't be making the distinction. It doesn't matter which is the copy.
Well, there's a physical distinction though. Like if I go in on my ship, right? And now two of me are made, one is left behind, and the other me is deposited on the other end of the wormhole. Is that what's happening? And I'm on the same ship.
I think it'd be more fun and more terrifying if there's no distinct answer to that question.
What happened? The reason why I'm asking this question is because if it's the original ship on the other end of the wormhole, the other me is left in space. without a ship?
I think that there's some kind of property about the wormhole that allows that to be like sustainable for humans. Again, I'm going like very, very soft with this. Like I'm using sci-fi not as like a genre, but like a flavor here.
I kind of need answers to these questions to understand how it works. Like, are these people floating in space then in the wormhole? Or are they like
in the wormhole
dematerialized somehow, so they become some kind of psychic energy?
Well, I'd say that they're like, oh, maybe, you know what? I'm okay with like kind of making that kind of thing where it's like a copy of like a ghost of you. And so what they really crave is like a physical body, because maybe they are like kind of dematerialized through the wormhole, but it's still a copy of you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to get my head around it because like, okay, so that makes sense. So then it's like I'm in my, we'll call them me A and me B. So me B is on the other side of the wormhole in my original ship, but then me A is somehow in part of the wormhole now. Like I'm super physical in a sense, and I'm in the wormhole in some way.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
To support your concept, because I really like that, because one of my tenets was there are no alien civilizations in the known universe. And I like that because that gives a rationale for how the wormhole is this mysterious thing. I think it's super neat because it's like it's something that we're starting with, like the super secret, right? That's the twist of the whole setting, which is interesting. And now we can like reverse justify it. So I just needed, for my brain to make sense of it, I just needed to specifically understand the steps. But I think what we laid out makes all the sense in the world now.
Great.
And it makes sense because if they're like dematerialized or turned to some kind of like psychic essence, that's why the ships wouldn't be affected by it, because they're not sentient. So it seems sentience might be the factor, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Then I wonder how my thing ties into it. Like, is it the heat or the movement of the ship that's drawing this energy towards
the
it?
sentience.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like, oh wait, no, because what do these echoes want? What do these ghost copies want?
Oh, like a solid form,
material,
like shelter, yeah,
right. Because imagine you are the echo, you are the copy, right? You are like, you see yourself as your shift starts to drift away, right? You're like, oh, I've been decoupled from my body. How do I get back to it? And then the horror is watching as your ship flies on without you, as you are like your ethereal form like starts to go through parts of your ship, and then all of a sudden the ship is gone, and you're like, it's traumatic, it's terrifying, right? But you're still you. You still want your physical body back because you don't understand that, like you probably think that it's a doppelganger that's replaced you. There's a number of different things, but that experience is like, oh, fuck, what happened?
Well, and to answer Courtney's question, like the particular question, because your question was like, it's after heat or it's after some kind of thing that the ship emits.
Yeah, or like why do they have to power down the ship?
Oh yeah,
when they go through. Yeah.
I imagine one of the ways you could try to explain that is that, like, sure, the brain itself it's a form of energy too, right? But the ship generates a whole lot of disturbance and energy passing through. So it could be that these ghost-like spirits, sure, they're attracted to the sentience, which is a form of energy, but the presence of the ship really alerts them.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
Once they go onto that, then they can get to the mines.
Maybe there is something to this idea that like, maybe there's something like it's much easier for them to just hear that static, or like it attracts them, right? So they can hear it for miles around or something like that. And that's what it is. It's not like they're like glomming onto it like moths to a flame or anything, but it's like, oh, what's that? And then that's when they're like, is that my ship?
Well, because then you have to power down, right? And then it's not only is it a matter of powering down and trying to glide through, but they're ultimately attracted to the sentience. So that means you probably also have to like keep your mind quiet.
Yeah.
And the fear will make that easier for them to find you.
That's true.
Oh, wow. That's kind of messed up.
This brings me back to that Land of a Thousand Dreamers, I think it was, or the Dream Vikings, basically, where they kind of had to like put themselves under when they went through this like storm. So this is kind of similar, where it's like maybe they're taking medication or drugs or like doing some sort of meditation thing to like quiet their mind while they go through. And then, like you said, if you kind of snap out of it and go, oh shit, that's when the spirits can go like hone in right on you.
I think from a horror perspective, forcing the people to be awake and not just being able to like take drugs to knock themselves out, it would be more fun and more effective from a horror perspective. So like let's come up with a reason as to why they can't just knock themselves out.
Maybe the timing of the wormhole is completely unpredictable. Like you don't know how long you're going to be in there. So if you take a drug that's supposed to knock you out for X amount of time, like if your ship gets out on the other end and the entire crew's still passed out, then that makes you a target for pirates and stuff.
Okay, that's actually extra brilliant because it adds to the tension of the space drift, right? Because, you know, okay, we're going into this wormhole. Last time it only took 5 minutes. And so we weren't, you know, we had enough oxygen, but we've had, you know, drifts that lasted a day or 2 days. Like having that variable time is, yeah, I can imagine a story where this is the longest it's ever taken for us to get through the wormhole. And it's now 4 days in, and cabin fever and desperation really start to kick in. And it's, you just amp up that tension. You amp it up, amp it up. Yeah, that's great. And of course you have to be quiet, or like at least relatively quiet. You can't be having like screaming matches with your fucking crew, because otherwise you'll attract the attention of the echoes and the doppelganger copies or whatever. So yeah, that's really good. I like that, Courtney.
It raises some questions about how pirates are able to operate in this space more safely.
Who says they are?
Well, I mean, the pirates, I assume, have to adopt the same precautions that we would. Otherwise, they would get possessed. And pirates, they exist because they're trying to make use of they're trying to exploit an economic feature, right? That's the whole concept of a pirate. So if they don't have some form of protection against these ghosts, then they really can't board other ships.
Or it could be like they're lingering like right on the outside edges.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Enter and exit. So like,
yeah.
So a ship traveling through would have to power down at that point, but they could still be kind of lingering there. And it's probably not safe. You're right that they are running that risk. And then on the other end, they're waiting there. And like, so you have to be really ready if you've just traveled through a wormhole to like jump into action right away and power up your ship and get away before they can charge in.
That makes more sense to me.
Exactly.
Then it's like they're at the lip of, they're predicting where you exit and they're going to attack you right then.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, imagine that like you power down, you're ready for the drift, and then all of a sudden a giant space harpoon comes and like yanks your ship out of trajectory.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or like you just ended up having to like hold your breath for like an hour or something like that, or like, you know, really shallow, really like low oxygen stakes, and then you finally are able to turn your ship on. But like, as you're turning on life support again, bam, 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 like all of a sudden you're boarded and like, okay, yeah, no, we need oxygen. So fuck it. Like take our stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Love it. Love where we're going so far with this fucking setting. Absolutely. Loop us back around, Courtney. Daniel, you already got your tenet off, right?
Yeah. My first one was, there are no aliens.
Right. No aliens. Right. Okay, cool. All right, Courtney. Yeah. Hit us with your second tenet. What do you got for us?
This one is pretty simple. The network of wormholes ultimately leads back to a central point that has yet to be discovered.
Oh.
Because in the prompt, one of the tenets was that the wormholes aren't naturally created. So I imagine that something in the past had created these as highways or routes towards a certain point.
You're making threads in a spider web. Gotcha.
Just redoing that again. Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, like, this is, if we want to Stephen King it, then yes, we could absolutely have like,
that's true. Yeah.
The expanded universe, but like, you know, context added and stuff like that. I don't see why we couldn't just like have it so like at the center of this thing is like a spider. And metaphorically, Daniel, I know that I don't want to fuck with your tenet, except this is the one time where I can actually play foil to you and make an exception to that rule. So I'm very tempted, but for now, I will say that there is not a giant space spider at the center of this, but we'll find out. I think we'll discover as we continue on.
I think there's opportunity to play more with your theme of it being a reflection of the self in the wormhole. I would be interested if the core of all of this comes back to Earth. Like we're looking to use these wormholes to get further and further out in space. But what if the event or whatever that created these starts with us? Because it seems to copy us, right? And that would suggest, and it's artificially made, that would suggest someone had some intention here. And it would be interesting if after doing all this journeying, we end up back on Earth in some other context.
Or you're traveling through a mirrored universe. So eventually you go far enough and you'll eventually you'll hit the actual Earth. Like rather than the copy that you're from. Yeah, absolutely, Daniel. Yeah.
I mean, that quote unquote spider, if you take it metaphorically, it's like the spider at the center of the web is yourself.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's great.
That's
and then you don't know how many times that repeats itself. So how many Earths are there,
Right. There could be infinite universes out there.
Right. But they're all like, you can travel to each one.
Yeah.
It's not like where you're busting through planes. It's like, no, you can just travel to all the Earths. Whatever. It's cool. Like that's actually really interesting. That's an interesting way of approaching it as well. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's really great. That's so exciting. All right. So for my second tenet, because I went second last time, I'm going to go ahead again. I wanted to play with the catastrophic event that might be on the horizon. And I think it's obvious and I think it's simple. But the thing that everyone is terrified of is the release of all of those pent up psychic spirits, echoes, doppelgangers that are in the wormholes. And I think it's simple and terrifying to have copies of yourself all trying to hunt you down and reclaim what they think is theirs. And that's really just what I wanted to do.
It's funny because when I thought about it, my feeling was like the collapse of the wormholes would be a catastrophe. And that's exactly what you're describing.
Pretty much.
Same.
But like collapse in a very different kind of way, know?
Because it unleashes the psychic forces.
It's like bursting at the seams, like with so many psychic copies. Yeah, it's fun. It's very fun. Simple. I really want to take it there. I think it's an obvious one, but I also think it's something that like I want to codify. And like, I feel like I could have also definitely just cheated and said like, oh yeah, by the way, this is really good. No, I just want to codify it. Like, I want this to be one of my tenets. I think like that is on the horizon. And I think that like it's known and is being currently studied.
One question I have is, I wonder if people don't know the nature of inside of the wormholes. They know there's this kind of spooky danger, but I have a feeling that like the organizations in play may know the truth, but the average person operating through it doesn't. And so they may have knowledge of imminent collapse, but not necessarily what that will mean from a psychic explosion point of view.
Correct. Yeah, I think that like the fact that you just see people in the wormholes is like scary enough. And then like, I think that only people who travel through the wormholes consistently will be able to recognize themselves. Because if you're, imagine that like, okay, there's the three of us and we go through the wormhole and then there's a bunch of people who go through behind us. Like they're not going to recognize themselves, but they're going to see us and they're not going to recognize that they're copies of people. Right. And of course that now I'm thinking about this now that I'm saying this. Imagine that you see someone in the wormhole and then you see them in real life, like, what do you make from that? Like, what do you take away from that? Like, oh my God, you're one of the people in the wormhole. Is it terror? Is it like, why do I know this person? Why have I seen this face before? Like, I think that there's a bunch of really interesting, cool narratives that you can talk about in a bunch of dialogues that you can have by keeping that mystery there. That's really fun.
Yeah. I'm also wondering like, why people are using these so much, even with that risk. And like you said something before that made me think of like corporations kind of hiding the truth of the situation from their workers and basically like keep pushing forward for the sake of money, even though you're running this risk of, your crew being replaced by doppelgangers or ultimately running the risk of this entire thing collapsing and potentially destroying everything.
I mean, there's a bunch of answers to that. I think all of which are sinister. For one, I think overall, as a global thing, I think the first answer would have to be that it doesn't seem like faster than light travel is possible or known how to do. And that's why we're using wormholes.
Yeah.
So that's probably the initial impetus. But then for two, this thing is copying people to put them back in the world, be keeping the original, so keeping an instance of yourself and also putting yourself back out there. It makes me wonder if that's an intentional thing. Like if there is an original quote unquote Earth, are they trying to preserve all of humanity through this mechanism? Are they trying to conserve stuff? Because if there's copies of us at different points in our lives saved in these wormholes, that seems like some kind of massive storage network almost.
Yeah, like a backup.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, and if there's an Earth at the center of this, was this set up on purpose to, I don't know, preserve the universe in some way? I don't know. And it also makes me wonder if they were artificially constructed. You got to think about the distances between star systems, right? Like if there's you do, because the wormholes pulls a question for the setting. I think even with soft and hard sci-fi, there's logical questions that get posed, just like when you have hard and soft magic and fantasy.
I know.
The point of wormhole is to gap two huge spaces. And if we're moving from say, I don't know, our system to Alpha Centauri, and we don't have faster than light travel, and if we have faster than light travel, that will negate the purpose of wormholes, then that means we're talking about, years and years and years and years to get a tiny distance. So if these wormholes are the way between these 2 points and they pre-existed, I wonder then if in the far distant past they were set up by originally traveling by the slow way to these places. So it seems like they would have had to have been put in place a long time ago.
Yeah.
And whoever put them in place a long time ago, if that's the Earth, that means we're talking about some weird distant parallel Earth that did all this work and also intended to freeze our histories in it as in the future.
Okay, this is all making me think that it is, how can I put this? It's a video game, essentially, or perhaps not so much a video game, but it is a massive hard drive in which all of the universes are stored. Perhaps there is a major ecological disaster and we have to put all of humanity's consciousness into something that it's the only way that we can save humanity. The world is doomed. The world is fucked. Put them on the hard drive. And then at least that way we'll survive somehow. Right. And then this is what's happening, which is why because the other Earths are just backups to that original hard drive. And that's why you're able to travel between all of the Earths. Because again, if we're approaching this, the worlds are essentially skyboxed, then travel between them. I think that makes sense to me. And also I think that it shows deliberateness and it shows that okay, why would we need to create copies and why would it create extra copies? Because that's kind of its original purpose, is to make sure that humanity survives.
I like that. I like that as an explanation of why we did it. I just wonder, one thing I'm wondering and trying to understand is what do we mean when we say multiple Earths?
I think that it's literally Control-C, Control-V down to everything, just in a different space.
How did we get the first, second Earth? That's my question.
Like I said, it's copy, the entire universe in which we're talking about is taking place on a hard drive. And so the original Earth was copied and put onto this hard drive, and that's where it came from.
Oh, so you're imagining there's a universe outside of it, our universe, that's copying them.
Exactly. It's the simulation theory, but with a little bit more thought put behind it. We have the reason as to why the simulation exists.
The only thing that concerns me about that is it puts the explanation outside of the reach of the narrative. And also it decreases the value of the mystery Earth at the center of the web. Yeah, that's true. That's a fair critique.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of there having been a pattern of copies, though. Because that mirrors what's in the wormholes. I think the counter to that patterning is to make there be an original. You know what I mean? That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just
Quote,
thinking of the
unquote.
Matrix now, where like Neo
Right.
meets the architect, and I'm like, oh, this fucking
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Battlestar Galactica too, where they're searching for the original Earth, right? And they do find it, but it's like the question even there is like, is this the original Earth? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a kind of a mystical quality to that.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Maybe there is something that we can do with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, could we go in that direction where like Earth is at the center, but it's not a duplicate? It's its own thing that's been long abandoned because
Mhm.
of it's like surrounded by all these wormholes. So traveling to it is extremely dangerous. And basically, human civilization has just spread out so dramatically over time that they've sort of lost the original Earth.
How I what I want to know, how would we know that it's the original Earth?
That could be part of the question. I mean, I like what you
Yeah.
were saying before, Rob, about this was a response to trying to save ourselves. And maybe the original Earth, like Courtney's saying, is abandoned, and we're not sure how we can confirm it is the original Earth. But we don't even know if it is did they succeed, and is their success the wormholes? Because if they can't travel faster than light, maybe they created the first wormhole in their system.
Yeah.
And that sent them across space, right? And it cloned them, right? And the way they were able to do that is maybe they had an intention of going back or communicating back, but they were cloned, didn't realize they were cloned, and they did it again, and they did it again. And that began the network, and eventually forgot where they came from. That could be one way that it happened.
I see. Like maybe it was almost like an escape route or something.
To another
like,
planet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an original catastrophic event that sent them out, and now
it's a literal teleporter. Like that's what they
Yeah,
intended to do with it. Like they intended to teleport themselves to some safe space. Maybe they did get there,
yeah.
but what they did is they cloned themselves.
Because they didn't realize that that's what was happening in the wormholes.
And now you've got, this has happened over and over and over again. And so the original Earth is long forgotten.
Yeah.
All right. So I love where we're going with this. Daniel, why don't you hit us with your last tenet, and then we can kind of nail things down, start nailing things down a little bit more. What do you got for us?
This one's, you guys already did it, which is great. It was just people who linger too long in the wormholes or use them too frequently face space madness, which is an essential feature of how this works already.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we've painted that pretty well.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
For sure. Great. Okay. Let's recap the tenets, and then we can roll the twist, and we will see where this goes. As a reminder, and I think as a surprise to my co-hosts, because it's spooky season, I am breaking out the spooky twist list rather than the traditional twist list. So let's go through the recap, and then we can get to the spooky twist list. Courtney, what was the first tenet? Can you remind me?
Yeah, it was whatever is in the wormholes is drawn to something about the ships, so that you have to power down your ship when you go through. And I think we definitely resolved that one.
I think we've made that a pretty core aspect of the world thus far. I would agree with that. Sure. My first tenet was what is in the wormholes are actually copies of ephemeral or ethereal copies of yourself that get created as you drift through the wormhole.
Yeah. I think that's definitely core to everything.
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm loving where we're going with the wormhole stuff so
Very
far.
Event Horizon.
Not quite Event Horizon.
Oh, because each of the wormholes is basically an Event Horizon hellscape.
No, because that was literal hell with like demons and barbed wire and spikes.
The spirit of it.
No, not necessarily.
This is horror, right? We want a horror
horror
situation. So I could see different adventures. It could be that or Sphere. Both of them have, or even what's the other one? The one with the
cell,
sun?
the cube.
The cube's nice too. The one with the sun where they have to reactivate the sun or something.
Oh, Sunshine.
Yeah, like each of those have like horrific psychological landscapes. It seems like that's what these wormholes create.
Kind of. Daniel, what was your first tenet? Because we need to go there eventually with the twists. I mean,
there are no aliens in the known universe.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a solipsistic view of the universe because it's all copies of Earth, right?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, we only know ourselves, so that's the only thing we're going to copy. Makes sense. Yeah, and obviously that works. It's exciting. It's fun. let's loop it back around. Courtney, what was your second tenet?
That was that the wormhole network leads back to an undiscovered central point,
which is Earth.
Yeah.
which is
And
Earth.
yeah, we've solidified that point. We've definitely gotten that down.
Mhm.
My second tenet was that the doom that is coming is the release of all of these copies onto the physical world, the breaking of the wormholes, and then, them spilling out, all that good stuff. I think that we haven't really talked about that, but that's because that hasn't happened yet in the
Right.
world.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think that's exciting.
Mhm.
Because I think that we've also created like intrigue around it by like the cover up by corporations and other people and stuff like that. So I think that was a good way to kind of incorporate that more into the world building.
Yeah. It leads to this like background tension, which is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Daniel, finish us off here, Daniel. We're exhausted. We need some orange juice. Finish us off. What's the last tenet that you want to hit us with?
It was the space madness, which we've already done.
Will we extensive space madness?
Right.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. We're ready to roll that twist off the spooky list.
And one thing that I don't want to lose track of before we continue to is that the prompt does mention like Western and swashbuckling aspects, which we
Yeah,
haven't
we did
really
nothing with that.
touched on
No,
yet.
we got I would push back that we
Oh,
definitely
literally
got
nothing.
the pirate vibe. The
Yeah,
pirates,
I guess. Yeah.
the pirates we've talked about.
But we don't have any rationale for their existence. They're just lingering at the edges of wormholes, stealing
Well,
stuff.
I feel like swashbuckling has a different vibe than just like
Yes.
general piracy to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because like
but
Buccaneers, or that's adventuring, it suggests,
Maybe it's that they can't use like technological type weapons because of the danger like right next to the wormholes, so they have to use like actual like primitive swords and things like that,
Oh,
like
that's
primitive
neat.
weapony. Like they have to manually board your ship,
Like an
to take
EM
it over.
field.
that's kind of fun. I can mess with that. Sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
So like,
you know what? Let's put a pin in this. Roll the spooky twist.
Wait,
and then
hold
see
on.
what
Before we
got.
do that, I want to expand on
Oh.
that. I think there's more to that we could really make it swashbuckling.
Okay,
Mhm.
why don't we wait for the twist and then you can bring it in? How
No,
about that?
because the twist might negate that. It's
Well,
very
good.
clear.
Fuck you. I'm rolling
No.
the goddamn dice.
I think though, if those wormholes are in each system, and we have this like EM field that on the lip of it makes it difficult to use technology, we could expand that. We could say the presence of these wormholes in the systems, the EM field is the whole fucking system. So the planets that they're on, they can't use technology other than, we'll have to figure out why, other than the ships. Because then you'll have like a spelljammer kind of setting.
Interesting. Okay.
Wouldn't that be neat? Or maybe the ships are powered by mines.
I want to move away from that part because that's definitely a trope that we've done at least once, if not more than once. So
Not mines, yeah.
the mines part, yeah.
Yeah.
The making them like more like physical ships, I'm okay
Mhm.
with, but I agree we need a good reasoning as to why, like, because then I feel like without any kind of electromagnetic like technology, that becomes way, way, way more dangerous. And like, while normally that might be fun, I feel like the simple tension of not, maybe it's like a set distance around the wormhole. That might be something, because having an entire system with an EMP field, I think, is unsatisfying for this particular setting for me.
Or it could also just be not like an actual field, but just the danger of using that stuff close enough, because that runs the risk of like drawing those clone spirit things out.
What I'm trying to do with it doesn't have to be an EM field that disables all technology. What I'm trying to do with what you're saying, Courtney, expanding it, is I think it will give a flavor to this world that we don't have. Like if, for example, some limited form of technology is possible, I don't know what or how, then you would, when I'm thinking about what this world looks like, now you have planets that are like swashbuckling planets where like you have airships.
Or like Wild West kind of stuff.
Yeah, Wild Westy, because there's limited tech, and it might be a result of these wormholes existing. I think that would be neat. I don't know whether that means like no tech or low tech, with the exception of the ships.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because that puts us on the precipice of really giving this world a flavor. Because as it is, all I'm picturing is like, alien people are restricted to their ships, and maybe like faceless pirates that attack us. That's all I've got so far.
What if using like constantly using energy industry, that sort of technology, this like probably makes no scientific sense whatsoever, but if it slowly over time bends the wormholes towards that source of energy. So if you're consistently using like high level technology over time, you're going to attract the attention of the wormhole.
It expands its size.
Yeah, like the spirits like notice and start moving, like shifting it towards you or something, essentially.
Oh, and that would drive civilization to not be super high tech.
Right, because if they keep going with that, they're gonna get gobbled up by the wormhole at some
Except
point.
for like liftoffs and like getting ships out there.
Okay, that sounds dope as hell, actually. Yeah, I was a little like, well, wait, what's going to prevent anyone from doing that? I don't see why that would just stop people. But now I'm like, oh, wait, no, I completely, I'm down.
Everyone will die.
yeah.
Daniel, why would that stop anyone?
Yeah.
Like, look at our fucking current situation and tell me that that's going to stop anyone from doing anything.
No parallels whatsoever.
No, yeah, exactly.
No, I'm imagining now that actually did happen to a couple worlds early on.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, fuck, we need to stop.
And Earth was enveloped.
Yeah, at the center of this like massive wormhole, like
hence the copies.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, you got okay, I know that we've been operating under the idea that like it only copies organic material, right? But like
when it takes the whole world, who knows?
Yeah. These are all psychic copies of the world. Like it's the only thing that materially can be reproduced.
The wormhole, each wormhole is in fact an instance of the originally copied Earth that was enveloped.
Oh, wow, we're going deep in it. Yes.
It's being added to by more people passing through, hence having these collections of people.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit! Yeah,
I mean, and so the question, like, of maybe there's an organization, like, there's an organization that's trying to keep these rules in place, but you got the pirates; they're the ones that are like, "Fuck you, we need to survive. We're on the fringe worlds, like we're gonna use our ships whenever we want," and that's the big tension in the setting, like politically,
Yeah,
because he said political intrigue too.
Yeah, and I imagine that there are still like companies and groups that are pushing their luck to like, oh, we can use this tech for a little bit longer.
Their emissions standards.
Yeah, right.
Or
exactly.
It's about like riding the line of technology where it's like, okay, we're gonna have 20 years where we can use this really high tech stuff, but then we've got to revert back to Western, like to Wild West times, just to like make sure that it goes away. Like there's that level of tension as well.
I could see like a kind of the eco cops that are go from world to world where like they're looking for energy signatures to shut people down, but that's what the pirates do is they turn things on for a short time and turn it off, that kind of thing to avoid the eco cops.
Eco cops. I love it.
Eco cops.
Space eco cops.
Space cops.
Wait, I'm going to say I'm like Spaco cops. There we go.
Spaco cops.
Yeah. Or Spaco-cops, I guess.
Spaco-cops.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, this is why I'm on this podcast. Yep. Okay. For the love of God, I'm going to roll the fucking twist now. I'm going to roll this goddamn die, okay? Oh, my God. Oh, no. Oh, no. I forgot that I have... Oh, no. Okay.
How bad is it?
The spooky twist. The spooky twist is now add in killer clowns.
That's amazing.
Oh, my God.
I love it.
God.
Well, okay. Clowns can be interpreted, okay? They can be interpreted. What are clowns about? What do they mean to us?
What does that mean, Daniel?
So what is a clown? A clown is a killer clown or scary. The reason why clowns are scary. Why are they scary? To start, clowns are supposed to be about producing joy and happiness for children, right? And for young people. That we would agree that's generally the purpose of a clown. Entertainment.
Yes. Daniel, is your back okay from all of the bending backwards you're trying to get to this metaphor?
Think about what is a clown for? To produce joy, right?
Yeah.
For children.
Laughter, right? And I don't know what's frightening about a clown, but a killer clown takes all that joy and that's for children and perverts it and makes it about horror, right?
Yeah.
So what can we do with it in the same vein? Because a killer clown means to me is saying, take whatever is joyful and laughter and fun and pervert that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also something with clowns about like sort of exaggerating human features and stuff like that. What if
Weird,
it's
colorful costumes?
Yeah. What if there's something about like when 2+ doppelgangers inhabit the same form? And that, I don't know.
I like where you're going.
I don't know
like
how
where
that
we're
connects to
going.
clowns other
I
than
mean,
the
it could be
exaggeration.
horrible and clownish inside there.
Yeah.
I mean, like a funhouse kind of nightmarescape.
Okay. Let's roll with this. We can do this. I like where your head is at. I like where we're going. How do we do it? How do we make metaphorical clowns?
Well, okay, so run with what you were saying, Courtney. An exaggeration of their features, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're saying like it's some particular combination of. Does it have to be like a trigger, or can it just be like the way that this functions in the wormhole space?
What do you mean?
So, like you were saying, if like say 2 of the same doppelgangers appear in the space, but what if it's just like this is the way these ghosts appear?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because maybe it's just about like them looking grotesque and almost like, you know, funhouse in a way. Like they're not, that's the way they appear to us. Like our killer clowns might actually be the ghosts, you know?
Yeah, no, that's okay. I agree with you, Daniel. I agree with you almost completely. Here is where what happens when you're for all of the millennials and olds in the crowd, you have a Xerox machine, you click the button and then you move it at the last second. What happens to that copy?
Gets all distorted and weird looking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So mind you, normally these copy processes, they're fine. Like you just make you as a ghost, but occasionally something happens in the wormhole and all of a sudden you have these grotesque funhouse mirrored versions of yourself. And that is the clown part. It is maybe not about the core of the identity of the clown, but more of the aesthetic of the clown, of funhouse distortion. But why are they killer? Because it's very specifically killer.
I mean, I love the Xerox analogy.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I think it works, and I think that aesthetically it works for what we're trying to do here. Like, or I know that this is like a, I think it's a TikTok trend where like I've seen it where you like copy or like you, Courtney, delete that. Delete all of it. Old, I'm not going to do it. It's not happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Maybe it's something about like that shift, the Xerox shift also affects the psyche of the duplicate.
Ooh,
so like something about them changes in such a way that they become like extremely violent or something to that effect.
Ooh. Okay. So you know how we were saying, or how I was saying that like the trauma of the event is to feel as though you are not the copy and that your body is getting away from you. You have the ability to self-reflect and see that you are in fact a grotesque version of yourself, right? So you think at first, wait, my body's getting away, and then you look down, you're like, oh no, and then bam, that's where like the mind break happens, where you realize that you are in fact a copy. And then so something in you breaks and you're like, okay, my entire desire is to get back to that body even more. I must destroy that and become human, become normal again. And there's this vicious, violent urge within you that it's replaced somehow, you know?
That's really cool. I like that.
That's great.
Oh, guys, we made Killer Clowns work somehow.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
I am, yeah.
It's about deconstruction, right? So like, I think whenever we want to like, if you're really confronted with something weird, just for our listeners, I feel like, and you're trying to like, okay, well, how do we marry the concepts? It seems incompatible. I think what I do in my head is I step back and say, well, what do these things mean? Usually, you know, you deconstruct them.
No, I always appreciate that when you do that, because it is an interesting way to look at stuff.
Yes. I agree as well. I'm glad that we didn't have to go down the It route or the Killer Clowns from Outer Space route, where there's an entire copied universe where it's nothing but clowns. Like, yeah, this works remarkably well somehow.
Oh, there's our faction. It's a pirate ship full of clown entities.
Oh God, they're coming for us. Oh wait, no, now we're just getting into like One Piece territory where you have like themed pirates and stuff going around. Okay. This is somehow really great so far. Let's go ahead and roll on the spooky list for the faction that we're going with here. So the theme of this faction is going to be secrets. Secrets. And the thing that this faction is going to be focusing on is a tragedy. Ooh. All right. So faction, they're involving secrets and they're focusing on a tragedy. Obviously, I feel like the tragedy has to be covered up in some way, and that's why that's where the secrets come in.
I'm wondering if we can tie it back in some way to the tragedy of like entire worlds being lost and consumed by the wormholes. Like how many people really know about that aspect of the world or of the universe?
Okay, hear me out. The faction are actually copies, they're echoes who have lost their world. Oh. And so like they're actually working towards like making sure it doesn't happen again. Because I think what might be interesting is to like kind of humanize these copies a little bit more by making them more active parts of the story, you know, by organizing them. So they're not just mindless zombie ghosts. They're actually like people who have goals, ambitions, and wants.
Yeah, that works for me. And I like the idea of like giving them more motivation.
Mm-hmm. Anything else about the faction that we want to talk about or any alternative ideas perhaps?
I mean, what are they going to be doing to prevent this from happening again?
That's a very good question, actually.
Like, have they somehow become secretly involved in like various governments and agencies, and they're part of the space cops, maybe?
Maybe they're actually able to communicate effectively with people who are traveling through the wormholes.
Yeah, I do love that. Like, I think, like what you were saying, if they are somehow organized, like, do you want them to be all organized, or do you want them to be like a subsection of them?
No, I think having a subsection, like I had very specifically had in mind the people who had lost a world, and like their goal is to warn others not to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Are they operating inside the wormhole, or have they found a way out of it?
That's a very interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah. What if they've figured out a way out, and it's something to do with, since taking over somebody else's body would not go too well. Maybe it's something about inhabiting like technology.
So now we're talking about possession of objects. So it's like a poltergeist situation.
Could be like androids are their target.
I'm not sure how I feel about androids personally, you know, because I feel like androids might be a good way to skirt around the wormhole situation. Like, why not have an entire crew of androids to go through the wormhole rather than actual people?
I mean, they could just be physical people, right? Like they've achieved their physicality. Did they possess people who pass through?
Yeah, I guess that could also be the case. Like they're just so desperate that they reach out for any body that's available.
How does that work exactly? Because we haven't even talked about that. Like, we literally haven't talked about what happens if the ghost actually catches you, right? Or the echo actually. We haven't even talked about that. Like, what happens? What's the process?
Yeah. I'm picturing like they almost like kick you out, so you become like the ethereal spirit energy thing, and they take over your body.
I'm not sure. Is that the best way forward, or would it be more interesting to have two bodies in the same, or two essences or souls or consciousnesses in the same body? Which one do you think, or is there some kind of other option besides those?
I mean, for the ones that are desperate to get back into their own body, I imagine that they would want it to themselves. But for those who are like kind of latching on to anyone, then yeah, I could see a two soul type thing working.
Okay. Hear me out here. Oh God, I don't know how to bring this up. So, all right, this is important. I want to talk about the show Severance, and if you have not seen it, you really should. But there are some concepts in it that I want to talk about in relation to what we're talking about here. So I really want to talk about it. So spoilers ahead. Please don't spoil it. It's really worth your time to go watch it as clean as possible.
Hi, Editor Courtney here. Spoilers for the show Severance are coming up, so if you want to bypass those, please skip ahead to the 57-minute, 50-second mark.
Okay, so do you remember it in Severance when the minds converge, where the innie and the outie meet, and they have flashbacks between those two existences and those two like time periods, and it's not quite the perfect sync up? Remember Paulie? I think Paul, is that his name? It's like he shows up in the first and second episodes. He has the nosebleed.
Oh, the guy who actually got out.
Yes. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Like he's all fucked up because he's merging the two sets of memories.
Exactly. And he still has memories from both times, and it's hard to reintegrate those memories together.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. So if your ghost gets put back into your body, okay, yeah, that's basically what happens, where there's a hard time reintegrating those two experiences, but there's a majority of overlap, right? Whereas if the other person comes and like introduces themselves into their body, there's no overlap. And it becomes a fight. It becomes way more difficult to reintegrate or to like take over that body that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So like when it's like the same person, they would merge together and they would be actively remembering or experiencing different things at the same time. But when it's a different one, like half of you might just like black out for 30 minutes.
Or there might be something that is like a psychological trauma of trying to inhabit the same body with someone else at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like, again, that's horrifying, but kind of interesting. And there might be an interesting way for this faction to kind of like do that, for this faction to kind of be like, okay, we've actually found someone who's like a lot more dormant, or like something like maybe they're able to inhabit people who are comatose, or inhabit bodies that are like more able to be possessed by a more dominant personality.
I mean, you could also have them attached to the ship itself. And so the phenomenon doesn't happen until after they get out, and then they are affected by it.
So what do you mean by that? Like, are we going back to the possession of an object again, like a physical object?
I mean, it seems like more of a freak accident sort of thing, like a rarer thing, or like a not as common as being murdered by ghosts in the wormhole. And I wonder if like there isn't a truly fundamental difference between a human mind and the technology or the energies that go on in the ship. And perhaps the fluke way of doing this is that the ghosts have found a way to attach to the ship. Because I'm thinking about the scenes. I could see coming out of the wormhole, being attacked by pirates, whatever, and they see, the pilot or whoever is interacting with the console, and something strange has happened. And that's the beginnings of like how this manages to move from, into their body rather than just them being murdered by the ghosts usually.
Yeah, like they kind of hitch a ride on the ship, and then could be any amount of time later, like suddenly you start feeling a bit weird because it's slowly making its way into your consciousness.
Yeah, and that would also kind of give more credence as to why Courtney's first tenet, why you need to turn off the electronics, because that's how they get in. Literal ghosts in the machine type thing.
Oh, I like that.
That is cool.
That works. Okay. Yeah, I think that all works together. Cool. I'm down with that. And finally, we got to talk about the main story quest. So what's that going to be? What's that going to look like? I mean, if it's spooky season, if we're just doing a spooky kind of story, I think that what we were talking about previously, where it's hyper focused on like just that. Honestly, if it's a spooky quest, I really just want it to be a story of people going through the wormhole. I think that's the most effective, best way to kind of run something like this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So what I was thinking is take it one step further before that. So like a return to the wormhole. So in order to incorporate the ghost possession. So I'm picturing they just come back from a successful jump and they don't realize that the ghost is in the ship. And you've got this like scientist character or psychologist or something. I don't know, whatever. And she's like she's doing her regular experiments or performance on the ship, whatever she normally does. And she slowly ends up interacting with the computer, which then possesses her. And that's when they start their second journey back into the wormhole, maybe the next one. And now they have a character that is from the wormhole among them secretly to start the horror setup for the actual story. That's the journey into the wormhole.
Did we just make the hit game Among Us?
Oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, you mean because there's one of them that's treacherous?
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, we've literally made Among Us. My goodness.
Yeah, because that's on a spaceship, right?
Yeah, or like a colonized world.
But she's not necessarily evil, right? We established they're not trying to murder everyone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she's probably the only good ghost.
So, okay, so what's that ghost character trying to do then?
Oh, I don't know.
Are they one of the ones that's like trying to get out to figure out a way to stop the wormholes from expanding or collapsing?
Okay, hold on. I just realized we need to add in killer clowns here somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one, maybe it's like there's a double possession where one person gets infected by the killer clown and one person gets or
it's, it could
like,
be the same person, two halves.
Okay,
so she could be both bad and good depending on what the situation is.
That's like an extra twist. I was thinking more of like it's a Terminator 2 situation where that two people are possessed and you're trying to like find out which one is the evil one and which one's the good one.
Oh yeah.
And in Terminator 2, the twist is that who we think is the villain is actually
good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to avoid is like the multiple personalities type of like trope, which I think is kind of tired.
Yeah, it would go in that route. It would go in the whole, what's the name of that movie, which was actually decent.
Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon.
No, it was like the sequel to Unbreakable, technically.
Oh, Split.
Yeah.
And that's not even a spoiler because it's literally in all of the like advertising and stuff. Yeah, like and like that's something I am trying to avoid. So I think having two opposing forces is more interesting, especially if they can possess other people. Then you add in like the thing element where it's like if you can jump from person to person, like that might be really interesting.
That is cool. So it's like it ends up being this thing where like the good one and the evil one it's like a race for control of the ship essentially, because the evil one wants to get to civilization as soon as possible so they can continue their killer clown rampage.
And honestly, if you're running this as a one shot, it's super fun because like you're handing out character sheets and then you shuffle up the cards and like you're normal, you're possessed by a good ghost, you're possessed by an evil clown. Like everyone gets the character sheets and then everyone looks at their cards separately and they're like, okay, I guess I'm an evil clown. Cool. So that way, like if you're running a one-shot scenario, it always changes. It's always different each time you play it.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of fun. I like that.
I think that's fun. And steal that for your spooky game this season if you want, So yeah, I did we do it? I think we did it.
I think so.
Yeah, because the focus is really this encounter on the ship. I mean, you can insert the motivations and reasons afterwards, like
exactly.
Killer clown ghosts. It's a killer clown, so who cares? And then you've got the good ghost. That one has some noble intention, and you've got to decide who do you align with. And I'm sure Killer Clown Ghost does not seem evil at first until things go psychotic.
Yes, exactly. Great. Yeah, dope. I'm very excited here. This has been a great setting. I've had a ton of fun. A big thank you to Kyle the Gnome Waiter for this particular setting prompt. And remember that if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, click the link, follow the instructions, and within a reasonable amount of time, we'll be building your world. If you want to follow us on social media, you know where to find us. It's over on Twitter at Let's Worldbuild. And if you want to come join our Discord and talk about world building, spooky stuff, or whatever, it's in the description of the episode. You know where to find us. And of course, if you're feeling particularly generous, you can always give us money over on Patreon. Guess what? Find that in the description. Go to Patreon, type in our name, whatever, and you'll get access to patron-only episodes, early episodes. And when you send in a prompt, your episode will be 2 episodes long rather than just a single one. So that's brand new and, well, not brand new, but fairly new and very good thus far. So with all that out of the way, that's going to do it for this episode of World Build with Us. Remember that we love you very much, and we're going to get through this together. Until next week.